We were told last night that San Diego State has informed the Big 12 that they will not be joining the Big 12, that their intention would be to join the Pac-12, and that, it's a more natural fit for them. And I think it makes a lot of sense because I think San Diego State has to be very budget conscious. You have a lot of debt on their new stadium and facilities. I think you are becoming this larger athletic program. This run to the Final Four certainly means a financial influx for the conference, but I think if you're San Diego State, you believe you're capable of more. But I think it is a very smart move by San Diego State. If you're going to bump up to a P5, I would tell you to stay in the Pac-12 if you have that opportunity. It's in your footprint. Obviously, travel costs, mental health, all of the wear and tear that we've talked about on athletes in these conference realignment scenarios. I think it makes far more sense for San Diego State to be in the Pac-12 than it does in the Big 12. And I think there's a whole heck of a lot of value in San Diego State from a geography standpoint, from an athletic standpoint, from their academics. I think their education is very good. I think San Diego State with its new facilities, especially football, with Snapdragon Stadium, I think there's a lot to be excited about. San Diego's a beautiful market. Of course, the Pac-12 would like to add that to its conference and to its footprint. It only makes sense. And I also think that San Diego State carries quite a bit of water in that town, in that they're going to be able to get a better revenue share in the Pac-12 than they would in the Big 12. So financially, it's going to be a better deal based on whatever the Pac-12 TV deal winds up being. But, one of the other things that I think we have to talk to Commissioner Navarez about is, what is her relationship with George Kliavkoff? Because I've watched several interviews with her where she is absolutely given a glowing endorsement to Commissioner Kliavkoff. And I think one of the biggest issues I have in that conference and in that situation, and her roots in the WCC and then jumping up to Mountain West, I think at some point we have to start thinking about the longevity and the welfare of student athletes when we just are talking about, well, let's just go join this conference or that conference. I think you have to think about more than add partners and revenue. You have to think about the impact it has on these kids, and it's something that we never do. Mm-hmm. And I think if you are the Mountain West, and I think if you're San Diego State, you're uniquely positioned to put the welfare of your student athlete first. And I think if San Diego State stays in the Western United States in the Pac-12, I just think that makes a lot more sense for the student athlete.
Yeah, and I think it costs them a lot less money, and I think
certainly
I think for San Diego State, I'm a big proponent of money is what drives basically all decisions, especially when it comes to college athletics. And I don't disagree with you. Like the health of the student athlete obviously has to be prioritized. But how do you go about prioritizing it? Well, you create bigger budget, right? You travel them in more comfortable accommodations. You make decisions to join the PAC instead of the big, so the flight's a little bit shorter. But if you can stack on a higher end meal, first class travel, let's say, or chartered travel, let's say, or whatever the case may be, right? You get what I'm saying. But I think the point is that these athletes, especially the ones that are going to go to the next level, I think a lot of them, especially in the revenue generating sports, are not there, in the same way that your student who's on scholarship and just grinding through the thing is. And so I think this dynamic of, hey, D1 going to the league or going to the NFL guy is going to have a very different experience than the pay my way, grind it out, 6th man of the year guy. It's just two different worlds and experiences for these athletes, but yet they still find themselves on the same plane or the same bus or the same situation. So to me, I look at the Mountain West, I look at the PAC, and I say, okay, hey, if San Diego State, is going to join the Pac-12, yeah, sure, the travel is shorter, but what it really comes down to is San Diego State going to go from $4 million a year to $5 million a year, or San Diego State going to go from $4 million a year to $20 million a year?
Wow.
What are we really talking about?
That's a big deal. I don't think there's any way, shape, or form that they pass $15 million a year.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, my biggest question with this stuff is, and before I guess we get into this money, let's give you the other story we've been working, and that is that the Big 12 is aggressively pursuing other expansion targets. And we're told Creighton and UConn basketball only are those two places that they're going. or have interest in. And I think those two fits are very, very good for the Big 12. And I think when you look at the Big 12 and you look at the situation the Big 12 finds itself in, basketball is becoming more and more important. And being the preeminent basketball league in the country right now, adding Creighton and UConn, two powerhouse basketball programs, makes a heck of a lot of sense. And I think you add Gonzaga to that, as we've told you exclusively on this show, from what our sources are telling us, that is that Gonzaga has a verbal invite. And the Big 12 has opened their door to start that process whenever Gonzaga decides they want to do that. I think this makes a lot of sense. It adds up very well. And it's just, again, another maneuver where I think Brett Yormark and the Big 12 presidents could quite literally be sitting on their hands and, patting themselves on the back, but they're not. And I think they understand this is not the time to sit back and rest on your laurels or your success. That's not where the Big 12 is. And I think one of the things we've talked about a lot on this show is the vulnerability of the Big 12. Now, obviously, with the demise of the Pac-12 TV situation, the Big 12's become far less vulnerable. And I think when you look at the ACC or you look at the Big Ten, or the SEC, what you have in the Big 12 is less desirable to those conferences and vice versa. And I think when you look at what the Big 12 is bringing to the table now, the money's there, the marketing's there, the mindset's there, and the acumen to grow the conference is there. And for the first time in a long time in the Big 12, and for those of you that have been Big 12 supporters, you're going to know this, there has been significant dissent and friction in the Big 12 for multiple generations that does not currently exist. And a lot of that is that you don't have the hammer known as the Texas Longhorns anymore, and you don't have Oklahoma in the conference anymore. They're simply not part of the conversation, for better and for worse. But what it did is it took a lot of the heat and the vitriol out of those meetings. It took a lot of the heat and the vitriol out of the phone calls and the conference calls and the president's meetings, and it took a lot of that out. And all of a sudden, Brett Yormark comes in, and everything's just ducks in a row. The TV deal, I think it was so critically important for Brett Yormark to come in and right away taste success in the form of that TV deal, because it allows you to do things like, hey, let's commit to Kansas City for the Big 12 tournament. Hey, let's go and get Rucker Park. Hey, let's look at, X, Y, and Z for expansion. It allows him to operate because everybody believes in him. Mm-hmm. So they get behind his vision. They get behind his advice.
Dilly.
And then you look at what's going on in the Pac-12, and it's just the opposite. I don't know that there really are a large swath of presidents in the Pac-10 of the 10 remaining who believe in George Kliavkoff. I think there is a group of them that do. But he is, in my opinion, in make or break territory right now. If this TV deal comes in at $20 to $22 million, as we suspect, I think the conference is in real jeopardy of shrinking or not existing at all. Mm-hmm. And I could be completely wrong about that. But again, you look at the Mountain West. Let's the what if game. If the Pac-12 absolutely disintegrates and goes away, tell me Oregon State and Washington State wouldn't be huge pickups for the Mountain West.
Yep.
Because they don't fit in the Big 10, in my opinion. You don't fit in the Big 12, in my opinion. I think you fit really nicely, really, really nicely into the Mountain West.
Facts.
And I also think there is other contraction, and I also think there is other merging that's going to happen, because you're not going to have the WCC, the Mountain West, all these small conferences. Conference USA is an example. I don't believe in 10 years that those conferences exist.
Yeah.
I think it's only a matter of time before they go away.
Yeah, and I think that's a natural progression of college athletics, and I think that as we've been we've been on the big picture, we've been on this whole realignment conversation for a long time now, and I think that the inevitability is that we get to a two-team or a two-conference setup. That's that to me is the future, but for now, the PAC is trying to survive. that's where we're at. So, I think like you said, it comes down to what you can get out of your TV deal. And again, I still maintain, and I hope you guys don't forget this, like, it's not just how much you get for your TV deal, but where that's going to be distributed. Because a lot of times in distribution deals, you can be getting paid, but if nobody watches and there's an early opt-out clause, like, what good is it? Those are the little details that I think really matter for the Pac-12.
Yeah, and I think it'll be really interesting to see where UConn ends up, because I think UConn, the Big East, is also in this really interesting situation, because I don't think that UConn football is of value to every conference out there. I don't think that UConn football adds a lot of value to the Big 12, other than to say it's a nice fit with West Virginia. But I think if you take UConn lock, stock, and barrel, you almost have to have a St. John's basketball. Because I think you look at Gonzaga and you look at St. John's, that's a nice two pairing for non-football schools.
Gonzaga.
But you look at UConn, I don't know how you ever split that up. And I don't think you would.
Yeah.
So I think the Big 12 is one of those conferences. I don't think the Big 12 wants a repeat of West Virginia, because it's been explained to me multiple times that West Virginia, just based on geography, is a very tough fit in the Big 12 when it comes to travel and the logistics of academics.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of schools that are happy that there is now a Florida footprint for the Big 12 with UCF, because it's a very difficult trip to go out and back.
Yeah.
It is not easy. Morgantown is not the easiest place in the world to go to. I think if you are, especially if you're BYU going to West Virginia, BYU, you can make a basketball trip. If you add a UConn, you can do UConn, West Virginia, UCF maybe, or there's ways to work
up
that.
options for you.
It does, but I also think, again, this goes back to, why would Brett Yormark do that? I think his first priority, and it's been explained to me 1,000 times, his first priority is West, not East. But I also think he's starting to understand he's not the only one in the recruiting business right now. There is a lot of action around the ACC, and we're going to see how all that plays, and ultimately what happens and who pulls the trigger on the buyout in the ACC, if anybody. I think it's going to be very interesting, again, in terms of how this will play out. This Pac-12 TV deal, if it's, again, $20 to $22 million, the Pac-12's got to find a home, because it cannot exist on its own at that financial level.
Yeah.
If it's $25, $26 million, okay, I think they're fine. But when you start looking at $3, $4, $5 million, and you start to understand that the Big 12 is pushing already $50 million per school in their new deal. So if they get Gonzaga, they're almost assuredly at $50 million per school.
Gonzaga.
I think without it they are, but almost guaranteed they're at $50 million per school.
Yes.
If you're at $30 to $35 million per school, that's just not sustainable. And so when we talk about, well, let's see, if it's $31.7 million in TV money only for the Big 12, well, why is that such a big deal if you're at $25 million? Let's be generous, right? The Pac-12 gets to $25 million. Because you need to understand, it's not just $5 million we're talking about. Because if you're at $25 million, you're going to have a hard time expanding. Because who's going to take far, far less to bring in somebody else to give their money to?
Yeah.
Nobody's going to do that. And if you are the Pac-12, the biggest issue is the precedent now with this pro rata that ESPN has. Who's going to pay for Fresno State if Fresno State were to leave the Mountain West, or if San Diego State were to leave the Mountain West?
Mm-hmm.
The question is, what are you getting? And again, I think, as we reported almost exclusively, ESPN's into this for $90 million a year. That's it. So who's the streamer that's going to give you a minimum, and I mean a minimum, at that point, of $15.5 million? I don't see one.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't see one.
I think the thing with the streaming portion is it's kind of uncharted water, right?
It is.
It's sort of like this thing where, no streamer, whether that's Amazon or Apple TV or hell, even YouTube TV, no streamer has ever ponied up this kind of money for this type of situation. It's always been the CBSs and ESPNs and Foxes and like the traditional people. So while at the same, yes, no one's ever done it, that also, doesn't mean that it can't be done. And that's why I think Apple TV and Amazon is really interesting, because we know that Amazon only wants one game a week. So when you start looking at Fresno State and San Diego State and Realignment and who's going where and how this would impact the Pac-12 TV deal, it does beg the question, what do we need to do? Because this is the question I'm asking if I'm Kliavkov. What do I need to do, Amazon, for you to ink, $20 million a year with us? Well, what is it? I mean, is it San Diego State and Fresno State? Is it different structure? Like, what do we need to do? And that's what I think has to be figured out. How can you get the streamers to come to the middle? Because Amazon doesn't need the Pac-12. This has been the problem all along. Apple TV doesn't necessarily need the Pac-12. Would they love to have it? Yeah, of course. Would you love to have Oregon and Utah on Amazon Prime? Yeah, of course you would. Of course. But you don't need it to pay the bills. And that's what I think is so difficult for the Pac-12 right now, is they're just not in demand in the same way that like the SEC or the Big Ten would be.
Or like Bucked Up Energy's in demand, my friends. Let's go. Mango Tango in the hizzy. Let's go. The absolute stud of Bucked Up Energy, Mango Tango, in the house today. I got to tell you guys, the reception that you've given, everybody who's ordered the free samples genuinely loves them. And I think everybody who orders the free samples, so you get 3 free samples, anything you want from Bucked Up. And you get the amazing shaker cup I always evangelize about from Bucked Up. In the description below, the link to get free samples. Everybody who's gotten their free samples raves about them. I would tell you, get the BCA sample, get the pre-workout sample, and then get some electrolytes, let's say.
Yeah.
Try it out. Test it for yourself. What you do is you click the free sample link in the description on the show below, and it takes you to the ordering site. You can pick your color combination, anyone you want for the shaker cup, and you also get to pick your free samples, and they ship it right to your door for free.
And they ship fast, which I think is a very low-key flex by Bucked Up.
It is.
Doesn't take you a month to get your product, man.
But again, this shaker cup, I can only tell you, mine's full of water today. They have this post in the middle of it, and the beautiful thing about the post is that the blender balls are connected to the post.
Yeah.
So that they don't go flying all over the dishwasher, down the garbage disposal. It's free. They're giving you a shaker cup free at Bucked Up. All you have to do is click the free sample link, go into any of their stores in Utah, from Farmington Station. I'm a South Jordan Murray guy. The Orem store is awesome. All of my friends down in St. George, the Bucked Up store in St. George is awesome. Or get online and order for yourself. BuckedUp.com. Use the promo code Monty to get 20% off your purchase at checkout. BuckedUp.com. But again, don't take my word for it. Get their free samples. They're giving you 3 free samples and a free shaker cup of your choice in the description below. Let's get your comments in here. We appreciate you guys being here. It is great to see everybody. We posted the show today early. Very early today. At noon. Tanner Plummer was in like 3 minutes later and said, good afternoon, boys. Lopes fan Gabe makes a great point. Please hit the like button. Really appreciate that. C. Kaufman, what's up? C. Kaufman also says, why would the Big 12 stop crushing the Pac-12? They wouldn't.
Excellent question.
And I think it's not even who the Big 12 is going after. I think a heck of a lot of it is this idea of, we're just going to outmaneuver you business-wise.
Yeah.
We're going to become more attractive. We're going to get a haircut. We're going to pluck our eyebrows. We're going to do all of this.
We're going to do the stuff. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to come out. We're going to look good, and everything's going to be kosher.
Okay. Hey, man, I'm just telling you, I love it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. What are you freaking out about now?
Yeah, that Lemma Harrington's coming on the show tomorrow.
How about that?
4:15.
TriDayTrading.com. Get the $10 membership. Lemma Harrington is coming on the show tomorrow.
We'll also get some jazz takes out of Mr. Harrington tomorrow.
Oh, I like it. Let's go. We'll talk jazz and TriDayTrading.com with Lemma Harrington tomorrow at 4:15. That's awesome. Again, hey, phenomenal response on TriDay Trading. So TriDayTrading.com. All you have to do is go to the $10 membership in the drop-down. Please make sure you click the Monty Show. Hook it up, friends. I'm telling you, the guys at TriDay Trading are legit. Mike Chase, good afternoon to you. Let's have a fun day. Have a great show, Monty. Yeah, yesterday was a little serious.
A little serious.
A little serious.
We may or may not, I can't confirm or deny that we may or may not have received some DMs about the serious nature of yesterday's program.
I bet you I got 50 or 60 DMs. And overwhelmingly they were, hey, really appreciate you having that conversation. A little bit of a heavy show, Dan. A little bit of a heavy topic.
Guys.
Why so serious?
Hey, guys.
Right. Appreciate all the feedback. Jay Chapman says, update, Kliavkoff last seen entering the offices of Nickelodeon. What, Comedy Central? No, Comedy Central. I love it. The Monty Ghost. I recently got a girlfriend, so Jake no longer needs to worry about me stealing his matches.
Damn. Okay.
That's good news.
Yeah.
Right? What's up? Patrick Bourne says Kliavkoff has blasted into the unknown. May need a Voyager to find him.
Yeah.
My guy Bigfoot Duck says San Diego State may want to go to the PAC, but how can they go to the PAC if there is no PAC? Well, it's funny you bring that up because I think this is a big part of this conversation. Is, well, what happens if the Pac-12 contracts? Because I think it's a real possibility if, and again, our sources tell us it's $22 million a year. It is $9 million from ESPN per year per school, and it's $13 million from a streaming partner.
No.
That's what we were told 2 weeks ago now.
Something like that, yeah.
$9 million from ESPN, $13 million from a streamer.
Yeah.
You're going to lose schools.
Yep.
I think you're going to lose the Arizonas, and I think there's a real good chance Colorado wants to go with them. And I think if that happens, I think it's going to be very difficult to add because I think ESPN has to sign off on that. You know, like I think it is. I think it's really interesting to see how that all plays out.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and again, I know we had a whole meltdown over Dion and Shador and which quarterbacks were better.
Shador.
But I think this whole thing about, hey, well, if Colorado goes to the Big 12 with the Arizona schools, what does that do for Prime's opportunity in year one? And I think it's a really interesting question. You know, I'm imagining there's pros and cons to it, but I have to think that it ultimately is good. I think it probably makes life a little more difficult in year one, you know, but I don't know, man. And I guess technically year one would still be spent in the PAC and then year two would be in the Big 12. So I get it, but you understand what I'm saying. Like switching conferences in your first couple of seasons presents challenges on top of what already is challenging.
I just don't think it's an option. And this is just my opinion. I think that there's just I think you're asking for trouble if you do a couple of things. If you change conferences in the middle of a TV deal, you're cutting off your arm, right? Yeah. So a lot of this change is happening because the Big 12 starts a new deal and the Pac-12 is ending its old deal. And so it opens up the opportunity. The other thing you got to remember is the buyout in the Mountain West is not huge. It's not huge. So, you know, I'm just telling you, the business end of this stuff is far more sophisticated than you give it credit for.
That's right, T.
And when we start talking about, you know, who's going where, and I think you have to slow down and ask yourself who's available and who's not available and what's it going to cost to make them available, right? Like it is, why do you think all the ACC teams are stuck in the ACC? Because it's just simply cost prohibitive.
Yeah.
There's no way out of that. I mean, the buyout in the ACC, I believe, is $500 million.
Yeah, good luck.
Who's paying that? So you're hoping that you can merge or you can do something. But again, if you're the ACC and you're watching Brett Yormark run circles around college athletics right now, what's your Rucker Park? What's your Kansas City? Because it's not good enough anymore to just have our, we're going to have our conference tournament in Vegas. If you're a P5 conference, it's not good enough anymore to just have some games and then hope everybody goes to the table. It's not good enough anymore. You look at what the Big 12's doing with Kansas City, And I know everybody's going to say, well, you're a Big 12 homer. Well, tell me I'm wrong. What am I wrong about in that you look at what the Big 12's doing in Kansas City, it is the new model.
Yeah.
You are bringing in rappers, entertainers, you're bringing in culture, food, great basketball into Kansas City, Missouri. And it's a destination now. People are staying longer, they're spending more money, and they're having a good time. So guess what? They're going to come back. And the locals want to be part of that, so they're going to get involved too.
Yeah.
And so now when fans travel, they're like, oh, yeah, we got to go to let's get that calendar. Let's look for an Airbnb. Let's look for a hotel. Let's set that trip up ahead of time because, man, you remember we saw Shaq perform as a DJ and we were dancing all night. And that's what it is. And by the way, the basketball was great.
Yeah.
That's what the model is anymore. It's not good enough just to have basketball. It's not good enough just to have the college football playoff. You got to have an event.
Yes.
And I think that's uniquely what Brett Yormark is into because of his background. Tanner Plummer. I agree, Mott. Most of the time we don't think about how conference realignment will affect the student athlete. That needs to change. And again, Gloria Navarez, the commissioner of the Mountain West, is going to join us here in 27 minutes. I'm going to ask her about that because I think it is hugely important that it's why West Virginia and Central Florida right now, you can't just leave them on your East Coast island.
Yeah.
You can't do that because you have, like BYU, you're fine. BYU, Cincinnati, you're fine. Houston, the Big 12 essentially owns the state of Texas. You're fine.
Yeah.
What do you say to Morgantown? What do you say to Orlando? That's a problem.
Yeah.
It's a real problem. So you're going to have to figure something out, in my opinion. Chad Masters, where you been, dude? Good to see you, Chad. Yeah, it was fun when Fresno State had to go to La Tech and Texas schools in the old 16-team WAC. I mean, it just isn't. Is it feasible anymore? Is that realistic?
I don't know if it's feasible or whatever. I mean, at some point, so for super conferences to happen, right, for these bigger 16, 18, 20 team conferences to be able to exist, well, what do you need? You need more money. You need TV partners to get together and say, okay, there's more than enough content to go around for all of us, right? Like, we don't need to compete anymore. We can spread out our availability over the course of an 18-team conference. We can do that. So how do we want to divvy that up? So once that takes place, and based on what we've told you guys, it somewhat is taking place, right? We know that ESPN and Fox aren't necessarily competing in the sense that they're trying to kill each other over the Big 12 or any of these conferences. Like, they both want specific things, and that happens to work out together. So when you start looking at travel and you start looking at 18-team, 20-team conferences, all it is more money, because once the school has money, it allows them. It essentially is that pass go card, if you will, right? Where you can pay money to take better care of your athletes, to create a smoother travel schedule. Even though that travel schedule may cost more, you can absorb that cost now because you have the TV money, because the TV partners decided to come together and realize, hey, we don't need to compete. We can spread this out. There's plenty of toast for all the butter, right? Like, there's plenty of toast. Dude, you like that? You like that?
Wait, I'm sorry. There's plenty of toast for the butter.
Come on, that was pretty good, dude. Come on.
Wow.
That's some of my best material right there, bro.
Was that from the first date from your not girlfriend?
That was some of my best material right there, bro.
There's plenty of butter for the toast.
Yeah, come on, dude.
My God. Wow.
That was incredible, dude. You've never heard that one before.
Wow.
Bro.
No, I'm mind blown.
Oh, shit.
I wish that was never mind. Anyway, that's amazing. That is amazing. Chris Wanser. Vegas is nice, but at some point overrated, and too many teams using the place. Kansas City has one conference that uses the Big 12. They will not leave that city. And Brett Yormark raves about it.
Yeah.
Geoff says, I'm going to start using the butter line. I love it. Hey, man, there's plenty of butter for the toast.
You like that?
There's plenty of butter for the toast.
There's plenty, dude. Come on.
You know what I'm
spread
saying?
It out.
Are you going to maybe I should ask, Commissioner Navarez if that's a good line. Like, Hey, Commissioner Navarre is in the Mountain West. Is there enough butter for the toast? Should I work that into the interview?
No.
Maybe I should.
Dude.
Do not dare me.
I will not dare you.
Maybe
bro.
I
We
should.
need that interview to go good, okay?
Yeah, that's probably a good point. Butter
Come
for the
on,
toast.
dude. That's some of my best work right here. Come on, man.
That's amazing. Christopher Shannon says BYU did it regularly to the PAC 2 years ago. They beat my Sooners in 2010. Oh, there's nothing that says BYU or any smaller conference or indie team can't beat anybody. BYU proved that exponentially. And I think one of the more interesting conversations with Commissioner Navarez is, what did BYU mean to the WCC? Yeah. What was it like being in business with BYU? Because I think we've talked about it ad nauseum on the show. At BYU, there's plenty butter to go around on the bread, man.
First of all,
yeah,
if you're going to quote my line, you got to use the proper nomenclature. Nobody puts butter on non-toasted bread.
Well, look, man, there's plenty of cream cheese to go around the bagels. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know.
Hey, man, are you a everything bagel guy, or are you more of a harvest cheddar, man?
Mr. Johnny says, I've been out of touch a few weeks with a newborn. Are you guys permanently afternoon now, or is this a temporary thing? No, we are permanently afternoon. Absolutely, Mr. Johnny. Hope the child is well. Adams D says, I would think Cincinnati is the travel partner for West Virginia. You would think so. You'd absolutely think so. And again, that's why I think you can make these trips for people, again, like BYU.
Yeah.
Or if you add a Gonzaga to the conference, you can make a road trip to the East Coast arm of the conference.
Gonzaga.
But with it just being, and okay, if we put Cincinnati and West Virginia on a trip, I think you have to go to UCF.
Yeah.
Every other year at least, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, you do.
It's a little awkward right now. It is a little awkward. And Christopher, you're exactly right. West Virginia is a Big East school.
100%.
But did we learn our lesson from the Big East? Right? You can't ignore it. You can't see it and then know that it's there and know that there's a solution and not do anything about it. That'd be like not going to TriDayTrading.com and getting the $10 membership. Like, it's a solution to deliver you the butter for the toast and stuff, but you don't do it, right? So you go to TriDayTrading.com because they are the best educators in the stock market, period. Because TriDayTrading.com is going to teach you how to be a prolific day trader, and $10 is going to change your life. Call me crazy. And I know $10 buys you a lot of butter and bread. Okay? But trust me when I say you pay $10 for your trial membership at TriDayTrading.com, you make thousands of dollars a day doing it full time. There are day traders today who went through the TriDayTrading.com program that are making $1,000 a day. Did you make $1,000 today? If you didn't, you should probably be calling the folks at TriDay Trading by going to their website, which means get on the interwebs at TriDayTrading.com. Right in the middle of the page, it says $10 membership. You click that. It's a 30-day membership. It's a charitable donation. They're going to take that $10, donate it to charity, tax write-off. Then you're going to go through their program. That's education, tax write-off. Then you're going to work for yourself. So your internet, your computer, your office space in your home, all tax write-offs, right? Any of the equipment, the supplies that you need, all tax write-offs, because now you work for yourself. You're not Dave in accounting anymore. You're Dave, the day trader, who's going on that Disney vacation, who's living in the house he's always dreamed of, who's driving the Rari or the Roddy, because you work for yourself because you went to TriDayTrading.com and got a $10 30-day membership.
Yes.
All
day.
If I'm exaggerating, you come back and tell me so. But go and sign up. Make sure you tell me you heard about it on the Monty Show. You sign up. Takes 20 seconds. There's a drop down that says, where'd you hear about us? The Monty Show. Simple. That simple. $10 to change your life at TriDayTrading.com. TriDayTrading.com. Get the $10 membership. Make sure you tell me you heard about it on the Monty Show. All right, Commissioner Navarez from the Mountain West is coming up here in 20 minutes. Truck Stop Gumby says, I churn my own butter. Thanks very much. See? There you go. Carl Dahlquist. She looks like Mrs. Butterworth. She's a butter.
Right.
Butterworth.
Butter. Right.
See,
Butter.
You know.
What now?
You know.
Let me tell you what now.
Bigfoot Duck says, my dad liked plain bread with butter folded up to eat with soup, ham and beans, even spaghetti.
Okay, but that's different. See, note what I said. I said nobody puts butter on non-toasted bread just to eat the bread. Like, I get that. Hey, butter on bread, then you dip it. Okay, we're good. I got it. We're cool, right? But nobody does it without the last step.
Carl Dahlquist says salted butter.
Yeah.
JC says, sure, ask a woman if she has enough butter. Monty gets canceled. Oh, come on. Come on. Come on. Geoff says, my pickup line for my wife for sneaky times is, can I butter your biscuit? Works 60% of the time. Wow, that's a lot of forearm strengthening. Taco and Tech says, how much butter does GK have for Pac-12 toast? Apparently not a lot. And from what I understand, no, I'm not. He's using tofu butter.
It is what it is.
I could be wrong. And donuts. Big Ten butters both sides of the toast.
Jackass.
Arlington Bears. Pac-12 equals I can't believe it's not butter. See? Now the Carnator has raised the level.
Oh, man.
Chris Karn has raised the level.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's not butter.
Yeah, dude.
You see what we're working here? You know.
Well done.
You know. Salty Drunk, will you guys be doing NBA later on? Yes, because the Sex Machine Devin Booker put on a show last night.
Yeah, have a night, dude.
And by the way, Salty, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander out again. Dude. We'll see. Truck Stop Gumby, Aunt Jemima better than Mrs. Butterworth, just saying.
I don't know. That's close.
I am not the butter full of corn syrup or the syrup full of corn syrup. Butter and corn syrup. I don't like my syrup to be made with corn syrup.
If you guys ever want to kick it, we'll flow.
So I'm the idiot who pays $19 for a jar of pure maple.
That's some 1%er tendencies, bro.
And then Mrs. Monty's like, honey, can you just use one drop of the maple? You don't need a whole jar, fat ass. See? Lopes fan Gabe, Pac-12 equals duck butter. See, because of Oregon Ducks.
Right, duck butter. Right.
You ruin this show
That
every
was
day.
one of my best lines ever, okay?
It is. Renee Roca. Yes, I've been not sure to the point of laughing out loud. Kansas City has played out. Move the tournament around. DFW and Houston would be better. Well, you know.
It's your opinion. That's cool.
I think Brett Yormark is doing the exact right thing.
Yeah.
Because it allows him to have a rock. It allows him to have a rock. Truck Stop Gumby says pure maple. Interesting. It's good. And I'll tell you, agave syrup, I'm telling you, underrated. Underrated. See, Kaufman, Big 12, tried DFW a couple of times, didn't go very good. But you want it to be a destination, and everybody plans for it. And if you're constantly, I think played out is Las Vegas. I think too many conferences have their tournament in Las Vegas.
Yes.
And I think the hard part is Vegas is great. I love Las Vegas. But I think anymore, Vegas is so expensive for your constituents, for your families, for your, for your staff. Like, it's really expensive.
Yeah.
So I think you are, and everybody flies to Kansas City. The routes are cheap. Like, you have to think about the business end of Kansas City versus Las Vegas versus anywhere else you want to point to. Like, I think it is again, New York.
Yeah.
Having the Final Four at Madison Square Garden is amazing. But, dude, you can only do that once every couple of years because it is super expensive.